Jay, that's strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
And the crowd up. And so are this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
David Montgomery on the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's a flag. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh shit.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Only Football Podcast. Tonight, we are going to be talking some NFL draft, more specifically, some guys coming out of the NFL draft this year, specifically Travis Hunter, a couple other guys. We got some stories on Travis Hunter, what he wants to do when he gets to the NFL, his non-negotiables. We're also going to be talking about Jalen Ramsey and how him and the Dolphins have come to a conclusion that they should look for a trade partner. So going to be talking about that and some possible destinations. And of course, we're going to end it off with the Chives with Kyle. Oh, let's get it. America is football.
Football is America. If you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass.
For the moment in time, I don't give a damn.
Oh my god!
No!
You loved it.
30-27. Chiefs win. Chiefs win 30-20. Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen,
But.
welcome to the Only Football Podcast. I'm Kyle, and that's Rick.
I'm Rick, that's Kyle.
Wow. The draft,
Wow.
10 days away.
Wow.
Actually,
Wow.
8.
Wow.
I know. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. I mean, I feel like we could spend an hour talking about the draft, to be totally honest.
Yeah, we could. And we have.
And we have, but not like this. I'm
Mhm.
not saying we're going to, but let me just say this. Shedeur Sanders is going to be a saint.
Whoa, what? What? I don't know what that sound was that came out of my mouth, but what?
Dude, Shedeur Sanders is going to be a saint.
You're
And
wild.
I'm shocked. It took me a while to buy into what you were selling almost a month
Okay.
ago.
Okay.
I'm in.
Okay.
Russell Wilson is the plan this year. And
Mhm.
because of that, Shedeur Sanders is going to fall. And you might think the Raiders, but no.
Mhm.
And then the Saints are going to be on the clock. Now,
Yeah.
I think Shedeur Sanders to the Saints made sense a week ago. But if it didn't, it definitely makes sense now that we've heard that Derek Carr has a shoulder injury that might prevent him to miss some time. Even so, there's a lot of Saints fans that aren't exactly happy
Mhm.
about the fact that Derek Carr is going to be their quarterback this year.
Mhm.
And I think it's fair to question if he's the long-term solution for the Saints. I also think it makes sense that there would be a player. Think about this. Every single year, there's a player that we project to go as high as 3 overall that falls out of the first round. Will Levis? I mean,
Yeah.
Will
Yeah.
Levis was being talked about being selected in the first 5 picks. The guy didn't even get drafted. Aaron Rodgers is a great example. Aaron Rodgers falling to the Packers is wild. And the fact that Aaron Rodgers relives that moment as if it was a nightmare tells you how different his expectations for what would actually happen on draft night, how different they were. Not just for him, but for all of us.
Yep.
And I feel like Shedeur Sanders could have a very similar experience this year.
I can absolutely buy that. And again, the Derek Carr thing, you know how I usually predict the NFC South way before I'm supposed to predict the NFC South?
Yes.
I'm predicting this year that the Saints will finish last in the NFC South.
Really?
There's no look, if Shedeur Sanders goes there, if he goes to the Saints, which I mean, there's a great argument that he's gonna end up there. Jacksonville has a quarterback. Vegas just paid for quarterback. The Jets have Justin Fields. Carolina has a quarterback. It's the Saints, or he's going in the teens. I just don't think that they have enough there, enough stability, enough anything on the Saints team, especially on the defensive side, that will get them anywhere close to a possible, division title. But I can absolutely buy Shedeur Sanders going there. And, when we talked about the Giants, that possibly being a landing spot for him, the Browns are maybe looking, from what I've been reading, probably going Travis Hunter. It made sense for the Giants. They got Russell Wilson. They brought in Jameis. Even if they bring in Shedeur Sanders, what do you do with that guy? Do you have 3 quarterbacks on the roster when you got a team like the Giants who has holes everywhere? Probably. You're probably not going to want to carry that many quarterbacks on the roster, especially when you got so many holes. But New Orleans, the Saints make sense. They want a quarterback. Derek Carr is screwed for the rest of the year, and the season hasn't even started. It makes sense. You want a quarterback on a cheap contract for the next 4 years. You want to get above water in terms of salary cap if you're the Saints. And if you're a Saints fan, you've got something to look forward to with Shedeur. You watched Colorado games, and you've made a case for Shedeur. He's definitely going top 10. He might fall a little bit, but he's definitely going top 10 because of his play in college. So if he's going to the Saints, man, I think it's a very, very good pick by the Saints because you get a really cheap quarterback for the next 4 seasons while also developing the rest of your talent and, getting rid of a bunch of other money on the books to eventually, if Shedeur turns out to be a good quarterback, to pay him. So I like the notion of him going to New Orleans. I like the notion of him going to New Orleans because the Giants, they're going with Russ, and they're going to wait until next year's quarterback class to try to get Arch Manning, Drew Aller, one of those guys, Carson Beck, if he comes back to form in Georgia or Miami, wherever he's at. So yeah, I'm liking Shedeur Sanders to the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, and sorry, bear with me. This is my first time setting up in this new place.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of you guys are leaving now because I'm so attractive, and you're like, well, I guess there's no reason to stick around.
Rick can't hold up the attractiveness level right now. It's Kyle or nothing, and they're out. Ginger likes my NFC prediction. He loves it. He's like, I've been waiting for it.
I love that it's a tradition.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm frozen here, but I'm going to push and fix it while I talk, which is hard. This is my thinking. All right. First off, I do think Cam Ward is going to be the first selection, but then it's going to be Travis Hunter, who we're going to talk about here in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Giants go with Abdul Carter, and that's the direction they go when they're deciding to lean on Russell Wilson. Hey, let's maybe draft a legendary defensive player instead of taking a risk on somebody that may or may not work out just because we're in a desperate situation. We brought in Russell Wilson, so we didn't have to be desperate. Let's not act desperate when we've already resolved it. Let's get the highest talent available, and we'll see how the chips fall. Maybe we can trade back in to the first round later if Shedeur does start falling, because the Giants did host Shedeur Sanders for a visit today. I don't believe that has anything to do with the number 3 overall pick. I think it has to do with if Shador's falling past 16, if the Giants trade their second round pick to come back into the first round and then take Shador. Will Campbell to the Patriots, of course. You got Drake May.
Yeah.
You gotta secure a tackle, and you got the best one in the draft. Mike Vrabel, of course, he's gonna get the best 5 offensive linemen on the field. Then you got Jacksonville, and we're seeing all kinds of different picks here. But I thought this is where Travis Hunter would go. If it's not going to be Cleveland, then maybe he goes here at 5, or maybe they go wide receiver and get T-Mac out of Arizona. And then you got the Raiders.
Oh, that's right.
The Raiders feel like the wild card of the draft. I think we got an kind of idea where everyone else is going until it gets to the Raiders. And then we're like, they could go quarterback, they could go defensive tackle, they could go wide receiver, they could go Genty. They could do anything, and we would be like, yeah, that makes sense. But to me, unfortunately for me and for you, this Raiders team I've studied for my entire life as a Broncos fan. They are just like the Cowboys. Like what's the most splashy on paper move they can make? Getting Genty. And that's just what it feels like the Raiders are going to do. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but that's how I'm feeling about it. Then you got the Jets on the clock. They're going to go with an offensive tackle. I don't know. Do you think they got 2 really good corners? The quarterback situation, they're going to give Fields a run this year. I don't think they're going to try to draft competition. So I think they're going offensive tackle. What do you think?
That's kind of what I was thinking too, because Tyron Smith was the one that he was there just last season. He was a Cowboy. Hold on, let me double check. Yeah, he was with the Jets. So he was 34 years old. He's been in the league for 13 years. He was there tackle as well, left tackle last year. So he's retiring. So they definitely need to shore up that offensive line too for Justin Fields. Justin Fields finally can get an organization that is actually going to take like time and consideration into him for at least 2 years. I forget how long they signed him for, whether it was a 2-year or 3-year deal, but
2 years.
Okay, 2 years. So at least for 2 years, they're going to want to, whether it's for Fields, whether it's for a quarterback that they select within the next 2 drafts, they're going to want to shore up that offensive line. Similar to what the Bears want to do with Caleb Williams and a couple other teams want to do as well. The Patriots is what you mentioned. But yeah, I can absolutely see the Jets doing that. I don't know what other route they might want to go. I'm trying to look up for some mocks here. So let's see. The first mock that I'm seeing as the Jets picking, offensive tackle Armand Membu from Missouri. So that's kind of what I'm seeing right now. And like you said, it's what they need. It's unfortunately what makes sense because they can't just go out and get the best guy. And they're also scheduled, or at least mocked, to get Jackson Dart, the quarterback from Ole Miss, in round 2. So while they have committed to Justin Fields, you still want somebody on the books that can eventually take over for Fields if Fields just does not work out, which is exactly what happened with the Bears. But yeah, the Jets going offensive tackle, I can absolutely see that, especially at 7. Real quick, going back to the Giants. I know you said Shador's not going there. The Giants, can they pick him up later in the second round? Do you think at any point, because if we're going with the Giants going Abdul Carter, do you think they'd actually go back, trade back to maybe the Saints, for example, to get even more draft capital? So if they say, yes, your second rounder and your first next year and a 5th rounder. Like, can you see that happening for the Giants in the first round, knowing that they could kind of go kind of anywhere?
Yeah, I do. And I also think psychologically, the Giants have a lot of making up to do because of letting Saquon Barkley go last year.
Yeah.
That was like a historical bad trade.
I
Like,
won't be able to go sleep at night if he goes to the Eagles.
we're
Went to the
gonna
Eagles.
we're gonna remember this trade. I mean, this is gonna be in the books. Like,
Oh yeah.
you've seen Fever Pitch with Jimmy Fallon?
Oh yeah. I love that movie.
It's probably my favorite sports movie ever. It's like really high up there in movies in general, not
Yeah.
even just sports, but there's like the curse of Babe Ruth where like the Red Sox traded him and they haven't won a series since. And I think that it's a little early for it now, but in a couple of years, you're going to hear the Saquon Barkley curse. It's going to be a thing. Think about it. Saquon gets traded to the rival and wins a Super Bowl in his first year with that team. And since then, the Giants have never been to, the playoffs or the Super Bowl or whatever. This is a historically terrible trade. And you got to find a way to make it up to your fans. And this draft has to be that making up process. You got to, in my opinion, you got to trade back into the first round. You have to. Like, you got to make amends for what you've done. You got to do what the Texans did, maybe, 2 years ago when they got Anderson and CJ Stroud. And I think that's on the table. I think that's why they're visiting with Shador. I really do.
Oh, so you're saying stay at 3, but then also trade back into the first round. That would be. Could you imagine getting Abdul Carter and Shador Sanders, like you're saying, like just like the Texans did with CJ Stroud and what's his face, the defensive end they got, Will Anderson.
And think about it. Let's say the Giants have a bottom line where they're like, there's no sense in wasting next year's first round to trade back up into this year's first round if we're not in love with the guy. We know that Abdul Carter's like a home run hit. Why waste a first round pick next year's on a Shador Sanders if we don't feel like it's a fantastic pick? Now, with that said, there's got to be a line where they're like, if it's pick 17 and Shador's not been picked yet, then we're going to be willing to throw this year's second and next year's second to move back up to get Shador Sanders and maybe a fourth. But this is where the poker face comes in, because the Raiders' son, the owner, goes out and says, my son's going to disown me if I don't take Genty. I feel like they want us to believe they're taking Genty because I think, and now this is the mind game here, if the Raiders let the world know that they're taking Shador Sanders, then the Giants would be trying to move ahead of the Raiders. But if the Giants see the Raiders as non-threatening as far as taking Shador, then the Raiders don't have to worry about the Giants moving in front of the Raiders because the Giants don't consider the Raiders a team to take Shador.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the smoke screens, I just said that the Raiders would take Genty, but that I feel like almost it's too good to be true. Like, it makes too much sense. And the fact that the owners are like saying this, it's like, what, do they want us to believe this?
Smoke screen. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Giants don't move in front of the Raiders. The Raiders went public and said, yeah, we love Genty. He's our guy pretty much. Don't worry about us. We're not even interested in a quarterback. We don't even know which quarterbacks are in the draft, to be honest.
We want Genty. We want Tyler Warren. Quarterbacks. So we got our quarterback.
Why haven't we heard anything about Shador to the Raiders? I mean, ask yourself.
I think, and the thing I think with this draft is it's Cam Ward and Shador, first rounders, right? With the Raiders, I think it's just a little bit more the Geno Smith signing. I think that's exactly why we haven't heard that. And it makes so much more sense for them to take Genty because once they got rid of Josh Jacobs, I mean, their running back room last year was dog shit. Like you were hoping that what's his name? The guy they got from the Vikings and the other guy,
Alexander Madison.
Alexander Madison, and the other guy they had, I think he was like either a rookie or second year. Regardless, they did nothing in the run game. Like, we know the Raiders, they were bad last year, right? But the run game was just atrocious. Like, I thought the Bears run game was bad. It's like the Raiders run game was pretty atrocious as well. So it makes the most sense for them to get Genty. When I'm looking at the draft right now, like, nobody else really needs a running back other than New England, but they're going to go tackle or offensive lineman. It just makes the most sense for them to go Genty. But if they want to bring in a Tyler Warren, a third tight end for the third year in a row, they'll do that. I mean, obviously I don't think so, but it just makes the most sense for them to go that way. And then real quick, I want to answer this comment here by Jinja. Rick, I can't find you on X. I am no longer on X, Jinja. You have to follow the Only Football Pod. That's the only X account I have for reasons that I will state at a later episode. But right now we don't have too much time. But yeah, you can't find me on X anymore, Ginger. I'm going to change that. I'm going to change the whole background to say that. But going back to Shador, I don't know, man. I don't think he goes to the Raiders. I really like what you were saying with the Saints, especially with all the car stuff going on.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good time to pivot to the story of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Travis Hunter coming out and saying, I'm going to retire. I don't want to paraphrase, but I'm going to paraphrase.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to retire if the team that drafts me
Mm-hmm.
doesn't let me play both ways.
Yep.
Now, we had discussed this. We talked about Travis Hunter and if it would translate to the NFL, the talent gap, the grown man strength, the amount of reps he would be taking, if the coaches have an obligation to keep him out of his own way, or do you take a guy that is that talented and just let him loose? What's the right way to go about it? I said to let him play both ways. I said especially a major decoy, somebody like that as a receiver lined up on the field, even if the play has nothing to do with him, he can get a lot done just with the amount of attention he demands on defense.
Yeah.
I actually commented on this, and it got like 6 retweets and like 70 likes. So this is what I said. I said, he's drawing a line in the sand right now, so he can say to everybody, I told you what was up. It's a smart move on him. I'm paraphrasing, but I can't remember what I said, but I was saying, like, it's a smart move on him because he's letting the team that is going to draft him before the draft know, this is where I stand. I will be playing both ways. And if you're not down with that, do not draft me because I will not suit up. And I think for a guy that I believe in, I mean, he needs to have autonomy over his own body. Like it's like the Tua Tagovailoa thing. Like everybody was like had an opinion about whether he should or shouldn't play. And it's like at the end of the day, like it's my decision. I am good enough to play wide receiver. I think I could be the best wide receiver. I think I could be the best corner. Put yourself in his shoes where you really believe that. Like, it's not just like something you're saying, but you're really like, I think I could do something the NFL's never seen before.
Yeah.
And I'll be damned if I just throw it away because the man that's in charge of me says that I can't play football. Like, that's not going to fly. And I think for him, he's doing it the right way. It's better to do this now, get this out there now. And it wasn't even like he called this PR guy and was like, hey, I need you to publish a story. It just came up in a press conference. And he just told the truth how it was. And I don't even think it was on purpose, but I think it was an amazing accident because I think you're putting the right language out there for everyone to hear before the draft.
And when I read this, when I saw this at first, I was like, okay, this guy is putting it out there, kind of like you're saying, like, look, I am playing both ways, and this is NFL team told him it only allow him to play either receiver or cornerback. Hunter would make it clear he's not playing football at all. Quote, it's never playing football again because I've been doing it my whole life and I love being on the football field. I feel like I could dominate on each side of the ball. So I really enjoy doing it, end quote. And not only that, Dion had his back when they asked him, like, could he succeed? What could he succeed at the most, wide receiver or cornerback? Dion said both. Quote, both. The NFL is a slow game. You huddle every play. How is the contact nowadays? Minimal. College is tempo, tempo, tempo. How many seconds between plays? So he does make a bit of a point in Hunter's defense, because I like that he's kind of drawing that line. We've seen that, maybe not every year, but we've seen that almost every decade. Eli Manning isn't playing for the Chargers, gets traded to the Giants, right? Who else was it that wasn't playing for a team and then got traded? I think Elway, right? Elway was also John Elway was another one. There's other guys who have been like, look, Deion Sanders was like, I'm going, when he would interview with teams, he's like, what pick you got? That pick? I ain't even worried about it, bro. I'm going to be gone way before that. So there's people who draw the line. And if you are a Browns, if you are a Giants, if you are this team, if you are that team, and you say, hey, man, you're only playing wide receiver, guess what? You just wasted a top 5 pick, a top 10 pick on a guy who clearly said, if you don't play me on defense and on offense, I'm quitting football. I'm taking the money I made, and I'm done. Now he can pull a Carson Palmer, retire, be done with that team, and then come back in free agency and go to a team that's actually going to allow him to play. But now if you're the Browns, for example, let's say that, you just lost on a guy who is confident in himself and had made it very, very clear prior to getting drafted that he's going to play both ways. And if you don't honor that, well, then guess what? He's going to pull a Carson Palmer on you and retire, never play football again, whatever it is that he's saying, maybe come back. Either way, you're losing out on him. So now he puts the teams, he doesn't put necessarily pressure on them, but he, like you said, he draws a very, very easy to see line where he's like, if you guys don't let me play, I'm out. So I respect it. Obviously, he played over 1,400 snaps, both on offense and defense, with Colorado last year. That's a lot of snaps. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of wear and tear on the body. But when you take into account commercial breaks, what Dion was saying, huddling every play, it takes about 35 plus seconds for each play to come about in the NFL versus the college level where it's about 30 seconds. Deion Sanders made this a point. Like, he had the math and everything. And you put that over an entire season, it does add up to, he's got some time off between snaps, between defense and offense. So Travis Hunter believes he can do it. And it's not something that's like far-fetched, like, I want to coach and I want to play quarterback. Right. It's like, okay, that's a little weird.
You're
but he's doing something. Yeah. This isn't baseball in the 1910s anymore. All right. But if he's confident that he could do it, man, good on him. He knows what he can do, but he is putting a bit of a bit of pressure on teams that are looking to draft him.
And I think he's like, I don't care about that, because at the end of the day, how much money am I really going to get paid if I play both ways? Like, we got to pay this guy as a receiver and as a corner. How does that work?
He's going to get like quarterback money.
Dude, he's going to get quarterback money if this works out. And that's exactly what I was going to say, is think about it. The best players in the nation for a long time go to Alabama. And you got guys like Surtain, you got Patrick Peterson. There's like so many great DBs that have come out of Alabama. None of them played receiver. And then you have amazing receivers coming out of Alabama in the last couple of years. You had Henry Ruggs, who, he could have been special. You had
Smith,
Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith, Amari Cooper. Like, these guys are so special, yet none of those receivers ever played DB. So like we have to also remember that what Travis Hunter's doing, he's not just doing this because there's no rules in Colorado. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he's
Yeah.
not like, I think sometimes we look at the school Colorado and we make it illegitimate in a way where we're like, that would never fly at Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Horse
Mm-hmm.
shit.
Mm-hmm.
Travis Hunter, if it was that like that where this only flies at Colorado, then he wouldn't have been considered the best in the nation at both positions by a lot of people. It
Yeah.
would have been just like, yeah, he played a little both ways, just like all the other college guys that did it that we don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm sure there's a list of players that did it and they were like decent at it, but then they got to the NFL and it was like no.
Yep.
But nobody in my lifetime has ever been the best at the position on both sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're going through that list, like the 40-second breaks, the this, that all the reasons why it works out for Travis, the biggest one to bring up is that Travis Hunter is different. Like that's the main thing is
Yep.
that Travis Hunter's not like these other guys.
Mm-hmm.
He's not. He's different. He's something we haven't seen. And a lot of times when something like that happens, humans, they just have to put people in a box. They
Mm-hmm.
have to be like, you're like this guy, or
Mm-hmm.
you're like this. You remind me of Deion Sanders because he played both ways. No. Like everybody's unique. Everybody's
Mm-hmm.
different. That just because you think like I don't know, it might make people uncomfortable. That
Mm-hmm.
it's never happened before and it never will. I hate that mentality because it's like that's the same thinking that's like I'll believe it when I see it. Well, like okay, that's fine, but when you do see it, you would have been wrong when
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Just and kind of going to another sport here. Wayne Gretzky had the most goals scored ever for a long, long time. Everyone thought that record was going to be unbroken. Alexander Ovechkin just did it this year. So
Yeah, I
a
saw
record,
that.
a record that everybody deemed unbreakable was broken in 2025. So I'm thinking now, I'm like, Travis Hunter may be opening the door to two-way athletes. And on top of that, like if Travis Hunter, he's 21 right now. I think he's going to be 21 when he gets drafted, if not 22. If he plays wide receiver and cornerback, let's see until he's 30, and he's damn good at both in his career for 8 years, let's say 8-9 seasons, you're going to tell me that that's not going to open the door for other players in college to be like, you know what? Not only am I going to play running back, but I'm going to, I don't know, be a fucking linebacker or something like that. Not only am I going to
could have done it. You see?
There you go. Right. Like you got a guy playing quarterback, or probably not quarterback, because in the NFL, it's like very much protected.
Yeah.
But you got two positions, and it might be wide receiver, cornerback for a stretch of time there. But if Travis Hunter can actually, for 8-9 seasons, prove that, look, I've got over 1,000 yards receiving for, let's say, 70 to 80%, 100% of my seasons. And over that same period of time, I've got 15 to 20 interceptions, 100 plus pass breakups. Like if you're excelling at both in 10 years, this whole argument of you can't play both ways like that in the NFL is going to be out the window.
Yeah.
And you're going to see players come in and doing both.
And what makes this wide receiver corner thing different, I'll tell you, because Steve Smith, and I starred this, I wanted to come back to this.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Smith, I saw this short. I don't know if it was the same one, but I saw the short that Steve Smith was basically saying like this right here. These are like he's really good. He's like, but in order to be great, these are the minor things that you got to do. He's like, because the NFL doesn't pay you to be really good. The NFL pays people that are exceptional. And what he was saying is like, he can be really good at both, but he can't be exceptional at both.
Yeah.
And Steve Smith is somebody I have a ton of respect for. I think he's the best wide receiver talent evaluator in the world today.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that he has said about receivers has come true for the most part. Quentin Johnson, who the Chargers drafted,
Yeah.
he said he's a big body, but he plays too passive. He's a project, but look, Quentin Johnson still hasn't become, anything. It's like I could go down a long list of just he's right until this. He's wrong about this. He is. And I think sometimes people, they might not say it, they might not even know it, but I think people, especially Hall of Famers, they get jealous because I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a part of him that's like, I dedicated my whole life. You got to keep in mind, Steve Smith is a guy that was drafted in the same draft as Dwayne Jarrett, who was one of the best wide receivers in the nation at
Mm-hmm.
USC when they played Texas in the Rose Bowl with Vince Young and Reggie Bush.
Yeah.
And Dwayne Jarrett had all of the package. He was a first round draft pick and he multi-million dollar contracts. Steve Smith, late draft, undersized, underweight, no name reputation.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I got to make up for all of it just by becoming a student of the game. I got to work harder than everybody. And Steve Smith's a Hall of Famer. Dwayne Jarrett, people have to Google to say what happened to Dwayne Jarrett.
Mm-hmm.
Dwayne Jarrett liked to go out. He liked to hit the clubs. He was not dedicated to his craft. So
Yeah.
Steve Smith, rightfully so, is like, you're coming at this thinking like, yeah, you can do both. But if you want to wear a gold jacket like me, you got to dedicate everything to this. But it's not true all the way with guys that do have all of those special, they're gifted, right? They're just genetically superior in this way where like there is a lot of this that is God-given. Like if I was bigger and stronger and faster, I would be in the NFL.
Yep. Same.
So it's like Steve Smith is looking at it in a way where it's like, I feel like because he works so hard to get his gold jacket, he doesn't like somebody else talking about it as if you can do both, then maybe you're insinuating subconsciously that it's not that hard and you don't know how hard this really is. This is not something that you can just casually, I'm going to play both ways. No, this is your whole life has to be dedicated to it. But let me ask you this. If you are studying tape about how to be a good wide receiver, you are learning exactly what the defensive back is doing. If he's trying to play pest coverage, this is how we're going to do our releases. If he's got leverage on the outside, this is how we get inside leverage. Everything the receiver is learning is about what the defensive back is doing. You can't learn how to be a good wide receiver without learning how to be a good defensive back.
Yeah.
You can't learn how to be a good defensive back without learning how to be a good receiver. That's why you see this wide receiver defensive back pairing makes more sense than a running back and a linebacker because these two positions you can actually study at the same time. It's not like you have to, I did 8 hours of wide receiver tape. Now I have to do 8 hours of defensive back tape. No.
Yeah.
You can do 8 hours of both at the same time, maybe 2 hours of, specific positional group. But for the most part, like Travis Hunter is doing both. He's really the epitome of a man that's trying to beat himself. The real question is, could I cover me?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question.
Could I cover me? And if I could, then how do I become a better receiver?
Yeah. And how do I beat myself from there? And it's just a constant, it's like playing yourself in chess. It's like, ooh, I knew I was going to do that. Now it's a great way to look at it too, because we can't just, one of the things that I think a lot of people look at is how many snaps are you playing? And it's like, okay, I understand the snaps. I understand I'll be tired, but also what do I have to do in practice? Because not only are you practicing as a wide receiver, now you're going on the defense too. You're learning the formations for offense. You're learning the defense you're going to play as a cornerback, whether it be a slot or I'm sorry, a nickel or an outside cornerback. Like you're starting to learn all these other little things. You're watching tape, like you're saying, and you're directly watching a cornerback and a wide receiver going back and forth at each other, which I think is at the end of the day very advantageous for anybody watching a tape like that and playing both positions that you're watching tape for. So it's a lot of other little things that go into it. And I think when players or former players talk about Travis Hunter and say that maybe not, maybe it shouldn't work out, they're also taking that into consideration. Honestly, the arguments on both sides are like both compelling. Like if I were to hear what you were just saying versus what somebody else was saying, like I would agree with both of you. Like if I'm hearing you right now, I'm agreeing with you. I'm like, yeah, it is advantageous to look at tape for both a cornerback and a running wide receiver. And then I'll like listen to somebody else and they'll be like, yeah, but this part of this, I don't know if he's going to make it. Then I'd be like, oh, fuck, that's actually a good point.
Rick,
so I think they're both compelling though.
But the one thing to push back is like when people are like, but all these formations, I feel like for the sake of their argument, they're like overcomplicating it. Denver's one of the best defenses in 2015 of all time. Not the best of all time, but top 5. And they ran like 3 defenses.
Yeah.
That's
like, and you can simplify it.
The Bears ran the, what was it? The 84 defense.
85.
The 85 Bears. There was a name for their defense.
It was the 4-6.
Yeah, the 4-6, and it was so revolutionizing that it changed the way offenses played. But like that's what the Bears ran. So if you got a guy like this on your field and you are giving him so much that you're like, he just can't handle the workload, you failed as a coach. Simplify your defense. Simplifying doesn't mean that you're limited. It just means that you don't have a bunch of banter for no reason. Offense is different, right? You're going to have a ton of, that's where he needs to focus. But like a guy that has that much instincts, hey, we're running 3 defenses. And we're putting Travis on an island and we're going to let his instincts do it. All he needs to know is I'm in press coverage. I'm backing off this, I'm in a zone here. Like the defense can be handled easy. I don't mean easy, but I mean way easier than, let's say he gets drafted to Jacksonville and Liam Cohen has a shit ton of, it's going to be a lot different. Yeah. So I think you're right about the workload, but I think the majority of that is going to be on offense. I think the defense, just simplify the defense. Would you simplify your defense for a Travis Hunter? I would. You don't need to overcomplicate it because you can still show blitz and back off. It's like just you can perfect 3 defenses. It's better to be excellent at 3 defenses than to be kind of good at 10, right?
And to your question, here's the thing, because I was about to ask you a question that kind of is similar to what you're saying, because if you are going into the draft, again, let's say it's the Browns, right? Let's say it's the Browns. 2 years ago, defense was fucking amazing, and then last year it just went to shit. Are you going to restructure, organize your defense for a guy like Travis Hunter? Let's say you do. The question I was going to ask was, if in 4 years, before you have to decide whether you want to bring him back on that 5th-year option or whatever, if in those 4 years he's clearly excelling at one versus the other, and he said 4 years ago, which would be today, that he's not going to play football if you don't allow him to, then it becomes an easier conversation with him, right? So that's why I think this is a great trial to be like, hey, you drew the line in the sand where you said, if you can't play both sides, you're quitting football. Okay, cool. We're going to give you your rookie contract to do this. Now, if you're excelling at both, sick. can we adjust our defense to your, not necessarily your strengths, because you're a cornerback, we do have to adjust for other things accordingly, but have you excelled in this defense? Yes or no? If it's no, then it's like, hey, dude, you've been a much better wide receiver. We're keeping you on wide receiver if you want to re-sign with us or not. So to me, I don't know if it's a clear yes or no answer to your question right now as to, are you reorganizing your entire defense for a guy like Travis Hunter? Because I still think this has to be somewhat of a rookie contract trial run.
Yeah, like if he's amazing, then you're like, yeah, we would consider it. And
Yeah.
I think what's likely to happen is maybe not the most exciting story, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we want is him to be number one in both positions. I think
Mm-hmm.
what's most likely to happen is that Travis Hunter is a top 15 defensive back in the league and a top
Yeah.
10 wide receiver, maybe. And that is still like insane to be top 15 and top 10. I don't think he's going to be as good as Sauce Gardner or Pat Sertan, but
Yeah. That's what Ginger was saying. Yeah.
if you haven't watched Travis Hunter play, you will immediately realize, just watch his highlights. Like he's got a nose for football, and he
Mm-hmm.
has instincts like I've never seen
That's what
in
I've
the
heard.
draft.
Yeah.
Sertan, nobody even comes close. This guy is the instincts are unreal. His nose for the football. He will just hawk the ball down. He will find it. It's like, where's Travis Hunter? Where's the ball? That's where Travis Hunter is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Yeah.
he's just way too talented of a defender because defense is all about instincts, right? On offense, you're reacting, you're cutting, you're the one trying to trick the defense. On
Mm-hmm.
defense, you got your heels going backwards, you are reacting to everything. So your instincts are your best friend. And if you got the best instincts that the world's ever seen, then you belong on defense. No matter how good of a wide receiver you are, it would just be a waste to take a player with those kind of instincts
Mm-hmm.
and be like, well, we're going to just take you off of defense. Like that just can't happen. And I think anybody that's watched Travis Hunter play defense
Mm-hmm.
is like, yeah, I mean, there's no way that we can just have somebody like this on the sideline. How could
What
we do that?
What do you think about Ginger's question here, where he's asking, do you think he could be a great center field type safety? I
I don't think he's got. I don't know if he's got that kind of hammer hit stick.
Yeah, I that's kind of what I was thinking, but as a safety, like yeah, it sucks because you can't. He's
You get
probably,
hurt
like you said,
more.
he's not that hard a hitter. He's not like an enforcer type of safety hitter, but if he's got a nose for the ball as a safety, maybe that kind of, I don't know, keeps him.
I don't like it. Because
No,
you got to think
I'm trying to make a case for it, but yeah.
if you got a cornerback. I mean, how many solo tackles does a great defensive back have in a game? 3.
Yeah, probably
Now, if
like
you move him
6.
to safety, he's going to be hitting people on every play.
Yeah.
It's a great idea until you account for the fact that he's got to play wide receiver the whole game.
Mhm.
So I think the only way this works, and and it goes back to the beginning, wide receiver and DB is the perfect cross position
Yeah.
because you're not taking a lot of hits. You got and honestly, defensive backs, like if the wide receiver runs a go route, yeah, you got to run. You might be out of breath, but there's a lot of plays, like a running play, you're just kind of like, and then it's a run, and then you're just kind of, okay, it's over. Like there's a lot of times where if you watch film, a defensive back, they're not running all over, like madman. Like there's a ton of opportunities for them to catch a breath. But if you move him to safety, now he's got to run up the A gap and the B, and all of a sudden he's like hitting tight ends. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like the kind of violence you want to put towards a guy I would save that just for a guy that's only a safety, you know?
I could see that. And another question too is, let's say 4 years from now, not only is Travis Hunter bringing in 1,000 yards per year, let's say 10 touchdowns, maybe 8, 9, around that range. On top of that, he is a pretty damn good leave on an island, the Travis Hunter Island type of cornerback. He's got, double digits interceptions, let's call it upper teens, low 20s going into that 5th year. What do you pay him? Because the highest paid wide receiver is Jamar Chase, making 40.25 million. The highest amount of money a cornerback is making is Derek Stingley Jr. at 30 million a year. So now, and I think this was kind of what we were getting to, or what you were talking about at the very beginning, was he's making himself a type of what do you call it? A type of unicorn player in the NFL. You're giving him unicorn money at this point.
Yeah.
If in 4 years he is in the top 5, top 10 in both wide receiver and cornerback. What do you pay this guy?
You take whatever percentile he's in both positions and pay him that percentage of the highest paid player in that position. So if he's in the 99th percentile at wide receiver, meaning he's like the second best in the NFL behind Chase, then you pay him 99% of what Chase makes in a year. And if he's, in the 15th percentile at a DB, then you pay him 85% of what Derek Stingley Jr. makes. And you combine those two numbers, and that's his salary. I think that's the fairest way to do it.
That would be an insane contract.
It
we
would
got
be.
We got Nick in the chat, Nick and Ginger. The boys are here.
The reality, though, is there's going to be a little bit of a decrease, because if one player gets hurt, now you've lost 2 positions. So
that's true.
You have to account for the risk that the team is taking. And that's something that's going to be, on the negotiating table for the team. Like, hey, what about us? Like, we pay you all this money, but now we can't get that second player because, and if you get hurt, now we're out 2 players. So ideally, you would do it the way I said it, but the business side of the NFL won't have it. It's going to be a lower number than what I'm suggesting, but we don't even know how good he's going to be. All
hypotheticals.
Assuming that he's amazing in both positions, it would be an absurd number. But if he's like, 15th best corner and maybe like the 15th best receiver, still crazy valuable. To be 15th in the world at both positions would be crazy. But now we're talking like somebody that probably makes like 55 million a year.
And, going back to the workload, the tape study, all that stuff that he'd have to do for both of these positions. Everything I've ever heard about Travis Hunter is that dude is hyper focused on being the best football player that he can be. Deion Sanders talks about, he doesn't go to parties, he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke. Going back to what you were talking about, Steve Smith and the other wide receiver from USC, that's what you want in a guy. That's why a Travis Hunter is a Travis Hunter in college. That's why he's being talked about, why we're talking about him right now, going into the draft to go into the NFL. It's because this guy is a hyper-focused individual that is going to take the time to study tape, is going to take the time to study plays, formations, get to practice, work out, rehab when he needs to rehab, rest when he needs to rest. Like, from all accounts that I've heard from him speaking, from Deion Sanders, Shedeur Sanders, and all of his teammates at Colorado, and even Jackson State, like Travis Hunter is the type of person that you want on your NFL team. And I'm just thinking about, because I think he's going to go to the Browns at number 2 overall. you put him next to Denzel Ward as a cornerback or even a slot. You got two really good guys. You put him as a number 2 wide receiver with Jerry Jeudy, who kind of really busted out last year, kind of came out of his shell a bit. You've got 2 really good options at wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. So if this guy can do the work that we're talking about, study the tape, go through practice, blah, 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 get his rest and do everything. I mean, the Browns have a scary 2-way player. You know what I mean? So that was one thing that I felt like I needed to get across, because it's like, we talk about the workload, but we're not necessarily zeroing in on the individual who has had nothing but good things said about him since he played college.
Yeah, and I brought this up today. I was saying during my lunch break, they were like making comments about how T-Mac made these comments that he doesn't watch film. And I'm like, wow, there's always somebody that we hear this, during the draft. And it's like, oh, this guy Trevor Lawrence doesn't love football. All he was saying was that he could be happy if football was taken away. Like,
Yeah.
I would find another way. Like, I wouldn't kill myself, basically, if
No,
I
he hates
lost.
football. He hates
Yeah.
football.
And well, that's what the NFL turned it into, or the media did. And it's like, that's why you just have to be so careful with what you say during the draft process, because they will just turn anything into a headline. But I did say, and this is what happened, the last game, the Bills, we got beat. And then when we flew back to Denver, I wasn't on the plane.
No, you say we, goddamn it. This is an us thing. It's we. I'm on the Bears, you're on the Broncos. It's we, goddamn it.
So I will. So when we flew back, we're cleaning out our lockers and stuff, and then we have our final meeting, and Sean went out there, and this is what he said in the meeting. He was like, we're going to, there's going to be players that aren't here next year. There's going to be new players coming in. But what we have is so special. The team camaraderie, how close they are. Like, they went to Cabo together after, they just spent a whole season together, and now they finally don't have to be with each other, and they vacation together.
Yeah.
Like, they actually like each other. It's not like how you hear the Cowboys locker room with Parsons and Dexter Lawrence talking his shit when he left.
Yeah.
And it's just like, everybody's kind of individually talented, and they're all on an island operating. Like, it's like Denver has really made a point to bring in players that are great for the locker room. And really what that means is just guys that love football. And like, this is what Travis Hunter is. If there is one thing that's more important than talent, it's this. Because you can have the most talented people in the world, but if you're throwing millions of dollars at a kid that's 22 years old and he doesn't love football, he's just really good at football, then all of a sudden you can have issues. I'm not saying you will, but I mean, there's plenty people that they had issues, but they managed, they like pulled themselves together, and then they eventually matured and grew out of it, like most adults. But then you have some that don't grow out of it, and it destroys them. And then you have your guys that were just never that kid. They were always the quarterback from Friday Night Lights.
Yeah. You're damn right.
Yeah. Just like, all I know is ball. I love football. Like when Sean made Bo Nix empty his backpack, I'm looking for a vice. I'm looking for nicotine pouches, a vape, something,
DMT needles,
something. And it's just like a tennis ball, a machine that, whatever.
Vibrator. Yeah. Vibrator.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe that was his vice. You know what I mean? But it was
like to get my gooch massaged.
Yeah, why not? It's got the ball, it doesn't have to be that sharp one. It can be a softer one. But like but like, that was when Sean was sold. And it tells you, from a coaching standpoint at least, that what was it that took him over the top? It wasn't his talent, it was his personality. It was his character. And that, to me, is why Travis Hunter is a player that I would give a lot to move up and get. If Travis Hunter's like on the board at 6 or 7, because let's say the Browns are like, you know what, Myles Garrett would go crazy with Abdul Carter. Like, imagine that. Abdul
Yeah.
Carter and Myles Garrett coming off the edge. And then let's say the Giants are like,
Yeah.
you know what? We are going to take Shedeur Sanders. And then all of a sudden, you got another team like the Patriots who are like, we do need an offensive tackle. And all of a sudden, Travis Hunter's falling not crazy far, but 7. And Denver's like, we're going to trade this year's second, next year's second, and this year's third. And they move up to number 7 overall.
Shit.
And draft a Travis Hunter.
And draft Genty.
Dude, either way would be great. Actually, Mel Kiper released his final mock draft, and he had Denver taking Genty at 20.
No way.
And I'm like, yeah, dude, Mel Kiper. I'm like, imagine if I was allowed to be as wrong as he's been and keep my job for 20 years. Could you imagine just being wrong about everything and just like...
Remember when he said Jimmy Clausen, if he's not good in 5 years at the end of his career, I'll retire? Jimmy Clausen was dog shit. He was dog shit. And he was like, I'll retire.
He's like every other Notre Dame quarterback, Brady Quinn and
everybody.
I will finish with this though, Rick. I think the best quarterback in this year's draft is probably not the quarterbacks we've been talking about. I think the best quarterback in this year's draft class is going to be very similar to 4 years ago when Jalen Hurts was drafted by the Eagles late. And there's those videos of viral Eagles fans going, what?
Yeah.
Howie!
Yeah.
No! What are you doing? Right. And now the guy's been to 2 Super Bowls, won a Super Bowl MVP. I think he might be the second best quarterback in the NFL. And I think that something similar is happening with Jalen Milroe.
Ooh.
I think when you look at Milroe,
Alabama,
and you're like, the dude runs a 4.3. I mean,
yeah.
Watch the tape. He's got the instincts. He's obviously still, because I said this last year, why was Jaden Daniels my number one, easy number one, is because I'm not looking at their production their last year in college. I am, but that's only half the story. I'm looking at their production the year before their last year, and I'm seeing how big of a step they made. And Jaden Daniels went from a guy that was pretty damn good at football to accounting for 55 total touchdowns and winning the Heisman. And I'm like, wow, if he can make that kind of a step, imagine what his next step looks like. And then it happened. And who knows if he's got another one in him. But what we do often see with guys like Trevor Lawrence and I'm trying to think of other where they're just like Jameis Winston's another one where they were
Andrew
just
Luck.
Amazing their whole college career, but they never really like.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I love to see that progression. And I felt like Jalen Milroe is doing that. And I would be interested to see. I didn't feel like Shedeur Sanders had like, oh, he was this whole new player last year that he wasn't the year before. I feel like it was the same guy. Cam Ward, same thing. He went to a different program, played with better players. But I think Jalen Milroe is much more intriguing than people are giving credit for. I just don't think quarterbacks that run a 4.3 should be not taken serious in a league where quarterbacks are running the football more than ever. This isn't just like a fastish quarterback. This is a 4.3, dude. Like, you know how hard it is to run a 4.3? You got a quarterback doing it with a good arm that's very instinctual, that makes great passes, has got a good zip on the ball. I don't know if I think Jalen Milroe is an absolute steal in the beginning of the second round or the very end of the first round.
And I'm trying to see if they've got him mocked at all in the second round. It doesn't look like the second round, I'm trying to look for Jalen Milroe right now because he's coming out of Alabama. And from everything I've heard, now they got Quinn Ewers going before him in the third round. They don't even have Jalen Milroe in the second or third round. And real quick, I want to give a quick shout out. We got KC in the chat.
KC!
Um,
Peter Schrager and Ryan Clark joined First Take on Tuesday to discuss Milroe, and he checked in at number 5 on Schrager's list. Jalen Milroe was in number 5 on ESPN analysts. I just clicked on the first article I saw.
Okay.
I typed Jalen Milroe draft, and it said ESPN analysts drop bold Jalen Milroe draft prediction on First Take. And then it said he checked in at number 5. Didn't say what. And then this is what he said, though. The brand new ESPN commentator suggests that Alabama star being invited to night 1 of the draft in Green Bay, Wisconsin is an indicator. This is actually a great point, because if you get invited to the draft, that means you're likely to be picked, right? 5th round guys don't get invited to the actual draft. So he was invited to Green Bay to attend the draft in person.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, Jalen Milroe was invited to the draft by the NFL to attend the draft in person on Thursday. And guess what? He said, yeah, I'll be there, Schrager said. Jalen Milroe is not being mocked as a first-round quarterback anywhere, but someone knows something to invite him to sit in the green room and watch the draft. Schrager continued, I spoke to someone in an NFL front office that said, hey, look, you put this guy in a package his first year and you let him run wild, but also learn an offense. He could be a first round pick. No one knows where he's going, but the NFL invited him to the draft, and that's worth noting. Clark has certainly been familiar with Milroe's game for a while, even bringing the quarterback onto his Pivot podcast last year. He added on to Schrager's point by suggesting that even with his flaws, the right situation could elevate him into the stratosphere. And I agree. I mean, and this was the last thing they said. More fascinating at the quarterback position to me than even Shedeur Sanders is not where Jalen Milroe will go. It's who Jalen Milroe will become. This dude runs a 4.3. I didn't read this. I swear. I'm just seeing this right now. No, I didn't. I swear.
How printed it out has it on his computer screen.
No, I didn't. Jalen, this dude runs a 4.3.
Show me the mirror. Show me the mirror of your shit.
This dude runs a 4.37 at his pro day. We've seen the explosive plays. There are days when you watch him play in games like Georgia from early on in the season that you thought he should have been drafted ahead of Cam Ward coming into this draft. This is exactly why when we brought up Jalen Milroe 2 weeks ago or a week ago, I was like, the Alabama quarterback, because I was like really turning my wheels thinking, I remember watching this dude play in the beginning of the season going, this is going to be the first overall pick. Obviously, look at him. He was amazing. He was lighting it up. This wasn't like
against Georgia. Remember that game against Georgia?
Yeah. I'm like,
fucking game.
How did we get to the part where Jalen Milroe is not in the first round? Like, I have no idea, really. I guess he put some bad tape out. He had to have.
He did it, like later on in the season, like Georgia, Carson Beck, and then Alabama, Jalen Milroe. Early in the season, you were like, these guys are going to fucking sling it. And in that game, they did. But then you went on along the season, and it was like, oh, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, not really mentioning these guys. And Carson Beck, for what it's worth, he's probably going to be a quarterback for next year. Now, I thought the same thing as you. I was like, what happened to Jalen Milroe? Because the college, TV shows weren't really talking about him as much, but he was the quarterback at Alabama. You know what I mean? So I like what Ryan Clark said there about it's not who he is right now, but who he can become, because we have seen that. I mean, Dak Prescott, for as much shit as he gets and for his kind of choke artist that he kind of is in the playoffs, I mean, he was selected, 5th round? Brock Purdy, last pick of the NFL draft. Like, these are quarterbacks who are making playoffs, winning NFC championships, or maybe not Dak Prescott, but he's making the playoffs.
Brock Purdy.
Going on. Yeah, and Brock Purdy, guys like that. So I wasn't
Jalen
really
Hurts.
thinking about, and Jalen Hurts, right? Like Jalen Hurts too is a good one there as well for that example. But I don't know yet. I trust what you and Ryan Clark and Traeger and what these guys are saying? Like he can actually be a second, third round, second day guy who gets picked up and can become a starter and become a very good quarterback. Yeah, because he's got the tools. He's running a fucking 4.3 in the 40. Not only does that make him an effective runner and he can open up a play, but if he's already a quarterback and he's getting the reps in, I mean, that's just an added bonus at the end of the day.
And Jalen Hurts fell to the Eagles. I mean, that's being drafted into the right situation. Like the Giants, the Browns, these teams that have just forever been in bad the Saints with all their cap issues. Like these are not the places that we think that he will succeed. But I'm saying if Jalen Milroe gets drafted to the Steelers.
That's what they're saying, yeah.
Or gets drafted to the Rams. Right, with Stafford going out, there are like those type of teams that if he gets drafted and develops, that we might look back in 4 years and say Jalen Milroe was the steal of the draft.
Yeah,
and that's the upside. And I'm surprised there hasn't been more talk about it. But then again, that's the whole point: is that player of every draft usually isn't talked about. And that's why I feel like we got the right guy here.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And I was just going to bring up with like Bo Nix. Everybody's like, you're reaching. And then what happens? He makes the playoffs on a team that was expected single digit wins and like low single digits, like 4. So
they don't know. They tried this every year and every year they're wrong.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. And like you said, like we can be looking at 4 years from now from this draft and being like, look at Jalen Milroe getting paid like a quarterback, right? Like a top tier quarterback right now because he's on the Steelers or he's on the Rams and he's making playoffs and making plays. I know his hand size too was like a point of discussion, and I don't know.
Fair for
that
security.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think wasn't Burrow talked about for his hand size going into the draft?
Yeah, he was.
Or Josh Allen, one of those guys. It was Burrow, right?
Yeah, and I don't think fumbles have been an issue with Burrow. Can you look up their hand sizes? Like Jalen Milroe to Joe Burrow?
Hand size draft.
How big is Joe Burrow's hand?
Yeah, it says right here, Joe Burrow's hand size was a notable topic during the 2020 NFL draft, with his hands measuring at 9 inches. While this was smaller than the average for quarterbacks at the time, it wasn't considered a significant issue by scouts, and he was the number 1 overall pick. Now, I'm trying to see
my hand is.
Jalen Milroe. Let's see, Jalen 9 3/8. So
bigger than Burrow.
Technically bigger than Burrow. I don't wait. Senior Bowl, Milroe's hands was measured at 8.8 inches, but at the combine, it increased to 9 3/8.
Wow.
How the fuck do you do that?
Dude was like,
he's
still
just
growing.
Yeah, maybe? He's like,
how old is he?
Fucking fingers right now, dude.
Is he like? Is he? How old is he? Is he is he a senior? That's like
22. Yeah.
So he was a senior?
Yeah.
I don't know how his hands would have grown.
Because he was at the Senior Bowl. Yeah, so he was a senior.
I trust the NFL, though, more than I do the Senior Bowl for some reason.
Yeah, that was a thing, too, with what's his name? The lineman out of LSU that I want the Bears to take.
I don't know.
Campbell? Something Campbell?
Will Campbell?
Will Campbell. That's been an issue with his arm length. How 33 inches isn't enough for a tackle, but it's good enough for a guard, which...
Because you're inside more and not dealing with edge rushers?
Correct. That I think is the biggest issue, is like 1 inch really does kind of make it that much of an issue, whereas
ask my girlfriend.
Hot. All right. Let's move on to the last topic of the day. We'll kind of make this one quick, but I thought this one was interesting Jalen Ramsey and the Dolphins are both mutually agreeing to seek a trade. So they're looking for a trade partner. Jalen Ramsey came into the league 2016. Jacksonville Jaguars got traded to the Rams, won a Super Bowl, then got traded to the Dolphins on a 3-year deal, was extended prior to, I believe, last season. But now the Dolphins and Jalen Ramsey are both looking for a trade partner. What would you, because my initial reaction was like, I mean, he's 30 years old, which doesn't necessarily put him too old to be a cornerback, but I'm like, is there somebody that's going to give the Dolphins like a lot in return? How much? What do you think Jalen Ramsey deserves? I guess, or what the Dolphins deserve?
I think a great example is because Jalen Ramsey was the best corner in the league, like easily.
Yeah.
So was Patrick Peterson.
He's
And
retiring. Yeah.
Patrick Peterson, who is now retiring, he was with the Cardinals, and he was the best corner in the NFL. He had like 5 really good years, I believe. Then he got suspended for a season for using performance-enhancing drugs.
Yeah.
And it was like he was up for a contract year, and then he dealt with an injury, and then he's like been doing like 1-year contracts since. And it was really kind of like this turning point in his career where it's like you have this 4-year window where you're the best, right? And then you get this new wave of like Sauce Gardner, Surtain, Stingley, the
Jalen
guy
Johnson.
from the Panthers,
JC Horn.
JC Horn. And then this new wave comes in, and then all of a sudden it's like you have to prove that you belong with this group, that you're still as elite as the new kids on the block. Because Surtain just won Defensive Player of the Year. So if you are going to request a trade and also request to be paid like Surtain, I feel like it's a little bit lofty for how we're feeling about you. I don't know if we are like all in agreement that Ramsey's still a top 3 defensive back in the league. Yet the day after Surtain's contract, they made Ramsey the highest paid corner in the NFL just one day after Surtain. And I thought at the time, like, okay, I guess he's in his prime technically. I don't know. I still thought it was kind of weird. Then another year goes by, and now I'm really thinking like, yeah, I think the whole thing's weird. Why do you make him the highest paid corner a day after Surtain, and then a year later you're trying to get rid of him? And who's going to want this contract anyway? I just feel like this whole situation is kind of weird because of the contract. If he was a free agent or he had 1 year left on a deal that was existing, but they just anteed up, and now they're going to try to give him to a team, like who's going to want him for that price? That's what I'm not sure that there's a team out there.
And the guaranteed money in 2025 is 24.3 million. So even CBS is like, they're going to have a very, very tough time finding a trade partner or even being able to get him off the team via trade. And Nick's saying a 3rd rounder too, because you have to go later in the round. If you're the Dolphins, you might even think maybe 2 picks, a 3rd or 4th rounder this year, 4th, 5th rounder next year, maybe. Yeah. Because the team that you're trading him to has to pay this guy $24 million.
I think he would be lucky to get a team that even gave him a contract with multiple years on it. If he was a free agent, I think he would get a 1-year deal, like a 1-year prove-it deal. And then if he did really good, then it's like, all right, we'll give you a couple. Like Patrick Peterson did so good with the Vikings, yet he got offered another 1-year deal after that deal instead of a multi-year deal. And
I remember we talked about that.
Yeah. So like, I look at like Stephon Gilmore 3 years ago with the Colts, somebody that won Defensive Player of the Year and was around the age Jalen Ramsey is now. But Stephon Gilmore was like on these 1-year contracts. Like he wasn't getting the highest paid, 25 million and you're in bed for 4 years. Like, do you know how many years is left on that contract?
So he signed a 3-year extension prior back in September. So prior to the 24 season. So he's probably got 2 more years left, with 24 million being guaranteed for next year. And I'm not entirely sure what the following year will be for guaranteed, but I'm assuming it's going to be right around that same number, because if he surpassed Surtan's getting 24 mil a year. So he's surpassing him by like a few $100,000 per year to be the highest paid cornerback at the time. Now it's JC Horn and Derek Stingley, but I would assume it's going to be the same amount of money, 24 mil for both next year and 2026.
It reminds me of like a bartender that worked in a restaurant, like a really good one for like 4 years, and everyone knew him and they came to see him. And then he leaves for, a year. And then all of a sudden he comes back to the restaurant and like the menus changed. They installed like new ceiling fans. They changed
He's like, what's up?
They changed things, the menu, they have new ingredients. And he's just like, yeah, but I'm like the OG. And it's like, you are the OG and you can learn really quick, but you're not like the superstar that you were when you were here.
Yep.
You can't just hop behind the bar anymore. Now you got to ask if you can come back here.
Yeah.
And it's like, but he doesn't realize it. He still feels like he can just hop back there and make a drink. So like, I feel like Jalen Ramsey is maybe in an identity crisis right here, because I think he still sees himself as the best defensive back in the league. I don't think there's any team that views him as the best defensive back in the league.
No, and there's clearly, I mean, like you said, Surtain just won Defensive Player of the Year. They just paid Derek Stingley. They just paid JC Horn. There's clearly younger guys, and younger by like 5-6 years, which is, in the NFL quite a lot, who are much better than Jalen Ramsey is right now. Now, there are, and his production dipped too this past season. Like he had like a 60-something% completion rate against him, or 80%, something like that. Like when you rank him in terms of stats, because he did play in all 17 games, when you rank him in terms of stats, I mean, he's probably mid to bottom of the league in stats that really, really stick out. And especially for when you compare him to a guy like Surtain. Now, I do want to point out that CBS, on this article I'm reading about him, they have 3 teams that are saying that can possibly be a landing spot. And I'm going to throw them out there: Atlanta Falcons, the Bengals, and the Detroit Lions. Now, the Detroit Lions are a little interesting because they just signed DJ Reed and they have Terrion Arnold. Terrion Arnold going to his second year. DJ Reed already been in the league for a few years. So Jalen Ramsey would be more of a depth piece, and also like, hey, you won a championship. Let's have that type of presence in the room. The Bengals, on the other hand, their defense was terrible. They surrendered the 4th most passing touchdowns during the regular season, and they allowed a almost 68% scoring rate in the red zone. So they're going to want as much help as possible. And the only thing with them is the amount of money that Jalen Ramsey's owed for the next couple of years, which is going to exceed $24 million. Now, the Falcons, they have just about $10 million in available cap space, which they'd have to do some things. They'd have to move around some players, some contracts, whatever it is. But you have Raheem Morris, who's the head coach there, who was the defensive coordinator in LA when they won the championship. So there's some possible landing spots, and they have their connections. Again, I just don't see how Miami can move on from Ramsey and expect not to pay maybe a little bit more of his contract, because some of these teams, they're not going to pay Jalen Ramsey $24 million. I have a hard time seeing that, at least for this.
Well, they only have to pay
season.
him $21 million because the Dolphins already paid him his $3 million roster bonus.
Yeah. Well, so well, it says 24.3 in 2025. Guaranteed salary.
I got $25 million cap hit with $21 million in salary because his roster bonus was a $4 million roster bonus, was already paid.
Oh, okay.
But this is the final year of his deal. Ramsey becomes an unrestricted free agent in March. So that makes things a lot easier, because really you're just looking for one team to pay him the $21 million against the salary cap.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking a team like the Chiefs.
They did lose L'Jarius Sneed. I mean, they've got McDuffie there,
They got McDuffie, so like maybe
but
pairing him up.
well, they're also paying oh my god, the lineman. Because they got him on the franchise tag, so they're paying him a lot of money.
But the $21
well.
million that's owed to Ramsey, it
Mhm.
can be restructured. For example, converting salary
okay.
to a signing bonus and then spreading the cap hit. So they could
okay.
ease the burden that way.
Okay.
So there's a ways around this.
Mhm.
It's just the Dolphins don't want to pay him the 21 million, and they're not like, and it's possible that the Dolphins were like, hey, can we restructure? Can we do this exact thing? And Ramsey was like, trade me if that's what you want to do. And the Chiefs would be like, hey, can we do it? And Ramsey would be like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, he's like, you guys have been in for a Super Bowl consideration every year for the last 7 years. So yeah, fuck it, I'll take the hit. But and then going back to being a trade partner, like if it's the Chiefs, I mean the Chiefs are probably giving up a fourth, maybe,
Yeah, and this is unlike Devontae Adams, who when he was traded to the Jets last year,
Mhm.
the Jets had him for 2025 and had control over him for 2026. That's why the Jets
Okay.
were able to get something for him when they
Right.
traded him to the Rams. So
Okay.
that would be it's like good and bad, I guess, depending on how
Mhm.
you look at it. If
Mhm.
they were planning on trading Ramsey, but Ramsey, whatever team gets him, would only have one guaranteed year without an extension.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like a 1-year rental. Then yeah, why not give him a fourth or a fifth round? I mean, a day
Yeah, it
3
would be a
pick.
1-year rental for sure.
Yeah, for like a day 3 pick, and you're Miami, and then you end up only having to pay 8.5 million for that. Like, I don't think that's a bad idea.
Yeah, and they could always negotiate an extension. Like, let's say he comes over, they give him a big bonus to spread the cap hit, and then it's like week 5, and he's just playing really good ball at a high level, and you feel like, hey, let's lock him down for a 2-year deal worth 30 million, and all of a sudden, like something like that makes sense because Ramsey's like, well, if I don't sign that, then I'm going to be a free agent and I'm probably going to get offered a 1-year deal. And I
Mhm.
don't want to do that because he's at that part of his career.
Yeah, I think the most I think the least he'll do is probably a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
Right? Like a Patrick Peterson type of thing going on, or Stephon Gilmore or something like that.
Exactly.
So
That's because that's just unfortunately like the natural age curve of that position is like
yeah.
30. You
Yeah.
start to, unless you're like Champ Bailey, Patrick Surtain, more Broncos corners, Aqib Talib,
Making this about the Broncos.
Aqib Talib, Chris Harris Jr., just other really great corners.
Trey
The
Smith,
Broncos
thanks,
are
Kissy.
known for having like a really great corner. My whole life, they've had a really great corner. I don't know what it's like to not have a great corner. It was always Champ Bailey.
Mhm.
Then it was Aqib Talib and Chris Harris Jr., who was
Yeah.
an undrafted free agent. And Chris
Yeah.
Harris Jr. was shut down. They call him Lock Harris or Strap Harris. And dude made the Pro Bowl like every single year. And it's so cool. I love those undrafted free agent success stories. Like, but do you think Ramsey's gonna be traded? I mean, it doesn't say like that they're in like the Dolphins. The Dolphins are in such a weird situation because they got all
Mhm.
these superstars like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Ramsey that they're paying out of their ass for. And
Mhm.
then you got Jalen Ramsey wants to be out, Tyreek Hill wants to be out, Tua with the injuries and then gets hurt again last year. And it's like McDaniels is, his once like cool way of dressing weird way of talking was like,
Yeah.
he was the NFL's darling, and now it's like people are getting annoyed because he hasn't won a playoff game. It's like things are just turning in Miami, and like the vibes in Denver are like
Yep.
going up. The
Hmm.
vibes in Miami, it seems like it's going down, does it not?
Oh, and remember when McDaniel came in and his style of coaching was super different, right?
Mhm.
It was like he's kind of laid back, dude. The press conferences he does, you're like, this guy's
Stone.
having a good time, stoned as fuck, hitting the vape on the sideline. Remember when I was like, how long do you think it's gonna take for the NFL to turn on this guy, going from this guy's so cool, he's got the offense like this? How long do you think it's gonna take before they fucking hate this guy? And I mean, 2 playoff losses or even not making the playoffs, that'll do it to you. And especially in the way that you lose games, especially in the way that you don't make the playoffs. Like, you have Tua, you've got Tyreek, you've got Waddle. Your defense really isn't up to snuff. They were better last year, but also, like, what are we doing in Miami? Like, don't get me wrong, that's what's going to turn a fan base and even like other NFL fans against you. But damn, you had such a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Like,
Grace.
not necessarily grace, but like you had a lot going for you. You know what I mean? And then you just kind of fucked it away in a sense where you're like, just saying I'd still fuck McDaniel. Facts. But it's just, I don't know, man. I McDaniel, I think, is on a short leash going into this year.
When you say the NFL, are you talking about the fans?
I'm talking more fans, and I'm not just saying because outside of Dolphins fans, I think there's people who just don't like McDaniel, and I think you've said it before. You're like, I don't like the way this guy kind of conducts himself sometimes because even oh god, what's his name? He just won the Super Bowl, defensive coordinator for the Eagles.
Vic Fangio?
Fangio. Remember, he it's like come out and said some stuff where he was like,
Oh, yeah.
And even some players on the defensive side of the Dolphins are kind of like, yeah, this and that, and blah, blah, blah. And it's
I
like,
just read something that was like Tua's getting hammered every day.
yeah, I don't know. Like, I
It
feel
has
like
to be true. I saw it on the internet.
it has to be true. No matter what, if we put it out on the internet, guys, it is facts. I want you guys to remember
Nobody
that.
would lie about another person.
No, never.
Not in a bad way, especially.
No, especially not in the bad
So
way.
yeah, Tua's a drunk. I don't know how the
But that's kind of what I'm talking about. Is like maybe just McDaniel, hey, maybe, tighten the leash on like the team. You
yeah,
know what I
like
mean?
there is the first thing Sean did when he got here is like, we have to create a culture. Ben Johnson's doing it in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
What is that culture? I'm going to be like the cool parent that lets our kids smoke weed in the basement.
As long as it's in
Fine.
the house.
Fine. At least it's in the house. They're not getting it from a stranger. That's cool. But I'll tell you firsthand that if my dad was that way with me, it wouldn't have worked out great.
It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. I would have been like, well, then if I don't have to worry about him like hammering me for this, then I might buy some at school. I might like skip and do all the things I did anyway. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been like trying to hide it and using hand sanitizer and Visine and like, I was at least going out of my way to try to like,
stay in
not
that
be in trouble.
child adult relationship.
Yeah, like my dad was not my friend.
Exactly.
He was like somebody that just like I had to look out for the cops. I had to look out for my dad. I was like, I had these obstacles that were really keeping me in line. If you think about it, it was what was keeping me acting a certain way. And Josh McDaniels like, yeah, just everybody's kind of like, as long as you show up here. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in the room, but all I can tell you is like Vic Fangio, I believe him with my whole heart when he says like, there's just too much. I know what it's like. I lived in Miami for 8 years. So like, I know how many distractions there are. You need a
Yeah.
Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel guy.
Yeah.
There's no way, and prove me wrong, but there's no way a guy like Mike McDaniels is going to have these kind of guys in Miami and they're going to win a championship together.
You know
I
what was real quick, and just to like because you're talking about the distractions and that does play a role. Remember when Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow were talking about like there is zero club scene, zero anything in Cincinnati. It's like football and home. Like that's what you do. And it's like that makes total sense. And it's like a very, very real factor in where you're playing football.
Green Bay, Wisconsin. Not a dude. And if you guys haven't visited Green Bay, Wisconsin, I urge you to do, because if you love football, you will be mind blown when you are driving through a neighborhood and then you come across like one of the greatest legendary, if for football, Vince Lombardi. This is in Scott's backyard. This is in Scott's backyard. This is unlike any. You go to a Bengals game, you're in Cincinnati, Denver, the city. You take public transportation. Like here, you like some guy is in a Ford Taurus, backing out of his driveway while you're tailgating. Like it's so weird. It's like you're in the suburbs.
Yeah.
Yet this is where they decided to plant their flag and play football, and they never decided to move it. And
We're good.
yeah, it is so just like when you're there, you're like, yeah, this is different. This is different than there's nothing like it. I'm not saying it's better because of it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's an experience everyone should have. It is like, if you love football, it is an experience, a true experience. Like there's not another stadium you can go to and have that type of experience. But like, to your point, these Cincinnati, Green Bay, these like middle
Cleveland,
of the
Ohio.
country, like Kansas City, like you're always going to have a harder time in Miami, Chicago, and LA, and New York, because
even Denver,
the
man,
distractions are 100-fold what they are in Green Bay. Like the biggest distraction in Green Bay is Aaron Rodgers going in to Piggly Wiggly and you run into him. That's your biggest distraction.
The biggest distraction in Green Bay is an accident.
Like, dude, to them, that is like that is like the coolest thing that will ever happen in their life. I ran into Brett Favre at Piggly Wiggly in the produce. I like, that's it. Like, I could die now. My life is complete. I never thought I would run into Brett Favre. I mean, like, it is way different. And when you live in a place like that, especially if you're a head coach, you want to be in a place like that. You really do, because you don't have to compete so hard with other things, right?
100%.
And for those teams, they tend to be more successful. Think of the Eagles and the Packers and the Bears for a long time. Maybe they're getting back to it. We'll see. The Chiefs, the Broncos. I mean, Denver's a city, but it's not like those other cities.
100%. 100%. Real quick, Crafty in the chat. He's asking, will you guys be doing draft coverage? I'm actually glad you brought this question up, Crafty, because I was going to say this at the end, but this is actually a perfect time. And once I answer this question, we'll go into the chives. But will you guys be doing draft coverage? Yes, all signs point to yes. But I have gotten a job with a restaurant, and it starts next week, Wednesday. And it is a nighttime restaurant. I mean, I know that sounds weird because I'm usually here all the time in the afternoons and nights, but I'm going to be working that from until like about 10 to 11 p.m. at night. So I will unfortunately not be here for the draft coverage. Kyle said that yes, he will be here, and we're going to be doing that. We're going to do a bit of a different spin on the draft coverage. We're really going to be focused on the first 10 picks and then kind of talk a little bit more about other stuff after that. But I unfortunately will not be here. Kyle will be running it. We're going to see if I talked to Kyle about this a while ago, but maybe another guy that I was talking to on Reddit, possibly jumping in and kind of, giving his insight and stuff. And maybe Kyle's got some other plans, but we will see. All signs point to yes, draft coverage, no matter what. Unless, of course, there is something that comes up in our lives. But for the most part, right now, absolutely, we will be doing draft coverage because it's a huge event. It's a huge event. Unfortunately, I have to miss it because of work. So that sucks, but it is what it is, Kyle.
I will be pushing it out. And we got, me and Rick both. I'm waiting still to get a technician at my job. And I'm doing 2 jobs and my hours show it. It's not going to be like this forever, but I am in the middle of a grind period.
Yep.
And when it does come to an end, you guys will know without me telling you. I'll just put it that way.
Thank you guys, because I like this one by Crafty. So everything depends on Kyle. No,
and I was going to tell you guys,
Yeah.
this is the first time going live in this new place because I moved last weekend and I've had no time to unpack. I still have boxes everywhere because when you go to work at 8 a.m. and you come home at yesterday 2:30 in the morning, then like when are you going to unpack? When?
Yeah.
Like when do you do it?
Yep.
And the only reason this is set up is because lucky enough for me, I texted Mary and was like, "Can you help set up? Just like throw it together 5 minutes." And she cared enough to make it. Obviously, spent more than 5 minutes, but I'm like, "Oh my God, thank you!" Because I really just cannot find any time right now. But I forgot where I was going with that. Oh yeah, that's
The
why
coverage,
I haven't
yeah.
been here. Is because I didn't. It would be one thing if I'm like, I don't have a bunch of time, but I have 30 minutes to go live real quick. But when you don't have any of your stuff set up,
It's
like
so hard.
you lose that the luxury of just going live real quick.
I'm sure you guys remember when I first started here at my new house, all I had was like a Bears flag in the background. So yeah, it's going to be a little different moving forward, especially kind of starting next week around the draft time, because again, I'm going to be working mostly nights. Kyle is shorthanded at work and is doing everything he possibly can to live stream when he can. So it's going to be a little different. And this was something that too we wanted to talk about. But I'm glad we kind of brought it up now with Crafty's question, which yes, it's going to be a little different. We might be doing more like lives where it's like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, when we can squeeze it in when we have time. And we're going to be doing like 10-minute long form videos, some shorts for you guys here on YouTube. So it's going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be like, hey, every Tuesday and Thursday, the Only Football Podcast is going live. Now, come football season, as long as my schedule for this restaurant, which I was given, stays the same, all day Sunday streams and Monday Night Football streams should stay the same for the most part. And we're going to work out.
Still too be going live.
Yeah, and Kyle will be going live too. Like this is what I'm saying is covering for both of us too. Like Kyle's going to be going live an hour here, 45 minutes, whatever we can do to get you guys more of the Only Football Podcast, we're going to do. It just might come in different forms and different times. So we just want to let you guys know, come football season, why would I want to do that? Fucking Crafty. So we just want to let you guys know that there's going to be changes to scheduling and stuff like that, as well as like logos, backgrounds, videos, thumbnails moving forward. So it's going to be a lot of positive changes and then some weird changes along with it too.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be going live twice a week still. And
yeah, I'm doing as much as I can during the days when I'm not at work.
And then, sometimes Rick will be there. Sometimes he won't.
Yeah, exactly. So real quick too, I figured this is the best place to put my little comment of the stream segment right before Kyle's chive. So just Kyle, I know you love feeling old like I do. Nick put, to measure the Brady GOAT argument, Tom Brady won a Super Bowl before I was born and when I was in high school. Let that sit for a bit. Nick was born, I believe the comment said 2004. So not only did Brady win one when he wasn't born, but he won one when he was in high school.
What?
So that's my comment of the stream right there.
You're joking.
That's ridiculous, Nick. I knew you were young, but holy shit, he was born in 2004, dude. That's insane. So you're going to be legal drinking age this year, or are you already legal drinking age, Nick? Because to me is just insanity.
That is like, that does make me feel old, but not as bad as you guys think, because I understand that Tom Brady played in the NFL for 50 years. So
yep,
if it would have been like an Amari Cooper or something, that would have messed with me more. But Tom Brady's like known for being in the league for forever.
Yeah.
So I can handle it. But if you hit me with those like surprising ones, like Des Bryant was drafted before I was born, I'll lose it.
Bo Nix was selected in the draft before I was born. It's like, you're one, and this is illegal. All right, Kyle, I think it's time for the motherfucking.
Welcome to the Chives with Kyle.
Oh my god, I feel disgusted.
Yeah, New York. All right, welcome to the Chives with Kyle. I am going to be going over. Travis Hunter says that he doesn't want to play for a team if he doesn't play both positions. Now, I didn't want to talk too much about this, but I'm just kidding. We already did.
I was like, oh, a different take on this? Or?
No, I'm just messing with you. Adam Rank did a mock draft with a twist.
Ooh.
And his twist is what every team in all caps should do in round one. Not what they will do, what they should do.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Number 1, Cam Ward to the Tennessee Titans. All right. Number 2, Cleveland, Abdul Carter. You're in a similar spot as the Titans, but the quarterback looming is a huge need. But Shedeur Sanders, is he the right guy to take this high? As much as I like Sanders, you went into the playoffs with 5 different quarterbacks, including Joe Flacco, who, hey, after an uneven stop in Indianapolis, just returned to Cleveland on a 1-year deal. If Flacco and Kenny Pickett and whatever other quarterback you might end up with can stabilize the offense, adding Carter to the defense might be enough to get you back in the playoffs again. Also, you should get one of those Ohio State running backs in the second round. Number 3, Ashton Genty to the Giants.
Ooh.
Wow. Talk about an IOU.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, exactly.
The O-line's a mess and there's other needs, but what you really need is a game changer who will help fans forget Saquon Barkley just won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Man.
Yep. And that was quick.
Okay, so they probably won't ever actually forget that, but still, you could have an offense with Malik Neighbors, Genty, and Russell Wilson, and that's not terrible, question mark. Travis Hunter to the Patriots. You might have had the worst offensive line in the NFL last season. I get why you want to build up on the unit, but passing on a talent for positional need can set the franchise back. Hunter's a playmaker on both sides of the ball. Give him to Stephon Diggs, or pair him with Diggs and give Drake May some help. Tyler Warren to the Jags. Wow.
Evan Ingram, they just got rid of him. Yeah.
Just got rid of Evan Ingram. Very, very fair. Love that you signed tight ends Hunter Long and Johnny Mundunt in free agency, but that shouldn't stop you from jumping at Warren, ranked as the 6th best player in the class by Daniel Jeremiah. As I mentioned in the intro, I urged Raiders to draft Brock Bowers last year, regardless of positional need, and it worked out pretty well for them. Jags, you should be stockpiling game wreckers for Trevor Lawrence, and putting Warren and Brian Thomas in the same lineup would seriously help him. It's kind of like when Sting teamed up with Darby Allin in AEW. I don't know what that
I
is.
totally get that reference.
You
Totally.
do?
No.
Oh, okay. He has in parentheses, I'm sure Tony Khan gets it. So it must be
Who
Shad
the
Khan's
fuck?
brother, the owner. He owns a soccer team. Is it something with soccer?
That sound AEW. It's wrestling.
Okay. Raiders, Jahadi Barron out of Texas, the cornerback. You'd
Okay.
probably love for Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty to fall here, and they still could. Teams don't always listen to me, which is fine, but they're gone. There is enough depth in this class at receiver and running back to wait on these positions. It makes sense to take a corner to help the defense, even if there is currently just one player on the depth chart. Jacarion Bennett, who topped 5 passes defended last season. The Raiders really have no defensive backs right now.
Yeah, they have no one.
And
They got a
so,
lot of holes on defense.
yeah, but they only have one player on the depth chart that topped 5 passes defended. Crazy.
Oh my god.
The Jets tight end Colston Loveland.
Okay.
The other tight end. 2
Okay.
tight ends in the top 10. Shoot, in the top 7, it's a
That's
wild time.
Yeah.
You should have taken Brian Thomas Jr. last year, like I said to, but you didn't. So now you still need help with the receivers, with the depth chart, and behind Garrett Wilson, currently filled out by Josh Reynolds and Alan Lazard. Loveland, Wilson, and Breece Hall are a strong top 3 with Justin Fields. As I've told teams before in this mock, and I'll tell them again, wait on help for the O-line. Then you got Matthew Golden, Texas wide receiver, being drafted. Panthers, Will Johnson, cornerback, Michigan, to the Saints. The Bears, Mason Graham. Widely mocked in the top 5. Graham could go as early as number 3 if the Giants chose to build in the trenches. But if he fell this far, he'd be the perfect fit for you, Chicago. He looks like he was born to be a Bear. He, Grady Jarrett, Andrew Billings could join to form the best defensive line rotation in the league.
Oh my
Note
god.
that I didn't insult Braxton Jones, who I love as a Bears fan, by giving you tackle Will Campbell with 2 picks early in the second round, number 39 and 41. There's time to add O-line depth. The 49ers, Jalen Walker, linebacker, Georgia. The Cowboys, Amari Hampton, running back, North Carolina.
They need a running back.
Number 13, Dolphins, Will Campbell. And number 14, Colts, Jinja, Armand Mambuo.
Missouri.
Yep, offensive tackle, Missouri. Number 15, Falcons. A lot of interesting ways the Falcons can go. They go Mike Green, edge, Marshall.
Wrong. They draft Michael Penix again.
Number 16, Cardinals, Tyler Booker, inside linebacker, Alabama. Bengals, linebacker, Jihad Campbell, Alabama. Yep. 18, Seahawks, Emeka Mbuka, wide receiver, Ohio State.
Yep.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Nick Amanawari, safety, South Carolina.
Oh,
the Bucs have done a great job with the offense. I love Bucky Irving in round 4 last year. Now it's time to focus on the defense. Safety isn't the biggest need for you. Linebacker could use some focus, and Jihad Campbell would be great if he fell here. That said, Emanawari,
you got it.
Can play a lot of different spots on the defense, and he should be a stud. Number 20, the Broncos. I've seen this one a lot. T-Mac. Tatario McMillan, wide receiver, Arizona State. I'm not a huge fan of this pick. It's like we already have a Cortland Sutton. While you don't, and long body, 50-50 ball. I don't know. This is what they said. While you don't always want to draft for need, number 20 is a pretty good spot for McMillan. Opinion on him is not unanimous. Steve Smith Sr. asserted McMillan leaves a lot of plays on the field. But if you're convinced by the tape and believe he can be the guy to help Bo Nix, I'm good with it. This would be a solid pick. Think adding Drake London type for this offense. I would rather have Luther Burden here. Number 21, Shador Sanders to the Steelers. Shador is going to be a Steeler.
Wow.
He's going to be a good quarterback in this league. He might just need a
Interesting.
little time to develop. I'd love for the Steelers to take him and give him a year on the bench, maybe even signing, I don't know, Aaron Rodgers to be the bridge.
Ooh, yep.
There have been worse plans. This is a sound long-term move. The Chargers, Mason Taylor, tight end out of LSU. The Packers go with Mikael Williams, edge out of Georgia. The Vikings go Gray Zabel, inside linebacker, North Dakota State. The Texans bank on Kelvin Banks, Texas offensive tackle.
Yep.
Then they go Rams, Malaki Starks. I feel like the Jordan Peele skit where they Malaki. It's Malachi.
Malachi.
I actually just made that mistake. It is Malachi. It's just spelled different.
Yeah, I know.
I've never seen Malachi spelled
I was gonna let you vibe, dude. I was letting you vibe.
Malachi Starks, Georgia safety junior to the Rams. The Ravens, we're getting to the teams that are the Super Bowl window teams.
Mm-hmm.
The Ravens go with Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon. Then the Detroit Lions, who haven't missed a first-round pick in 4 years, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
They go, and who knows what the Lions are going to do, right? They're always surprising us.
Always, yeah.
Donovan Izurukoyu, Boston College edge.
Love it.
This is a wild name draft. Number 29, James Pierce Jr. Thank you.
Thank God.
Titans edge, Tennessee. He went to Tennessee edge. Number 30. It's weird the Commanders drafting at 29 because of how good they were last year.
Yeah.
When's the last time you saw the Commanders this high?
This high? Yeah, I know, right?
Number 30, Buffalo, Luther Burden. Damn, I would swap those with Denver. There's a lot of ways you could go here. The reason I love Luther Burden is because he can do the direct snaps. He can line up in the slot, the outside. He's very shifty. He can win the 50-50 balls, but he also can do slot stuff. Like, he is really, like Sean Payton dials up so much. He is like a Swiss Army knife as a wide receiver. I would much rather have somebody like that with Sean than just another 50-50 guy. When we already have Cortland Sutton.
Gotcha.
31, Josh Simmons, offensive tackle, Ohio State. And finally, the Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia Eagles, with the last pick in the first round draft. Shavon Revel Jr., a cornerback out of East Carolina. He's an athletic freak who could end up hitting huge in the NFL. Limited experience coming off an ACL, but the kind of player you can work into the lineup slowly and develop into a valuable starter down the road. These are the kind of moves that made you a champion. Take the leap again here.
I like it. Adam Rank. I really like Adam Rank. I don't know if you knew this, Kyle, but Adam Rank was a guy prior to last season who said, the Broncos were not going to be as bad as everyone thought. He actually had them with a much higher win total. I don't know if it was double digits.
Who was it?
Adam Rank.
Which team?
The Broncos.
Oh, no, I know, because every single week he would pick them to win
this year.
Every single week he would pick them to win, and then we would retweet it. And then it got to a point where it was like, he was getting a rise out of the Bronco fans and doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
No, he's like,
exactly.
Adam Rank is the Broncos. Like, he was the only one that had our back all year. And then it became, well, I can't stop picking them now.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I knew Adam Rank was a guy.
Yeah, he's definitely a guy. I like him. So thank you guys for joining us. This is a beautiful example that we here on the Only Football Podcast do not do names. We'll never do names. We'll always mispronounce and forget people's names. But thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate all the comments and everything. Go, and Kyle, you got something to say. You got something on your mind.
No, I was just thinking, the wide receiver for the Patriots all those years, the slot Amendola, Danny Amendola. You know,
Yeah.
he's got his own podcast.
Does he really?
Is it Danny Amendola? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's
No,
Danny.
are you talking about talking about the other guy,
the other white guy,
the other white guy, not Amendola,
not Wes Walker, the other white guy.
Yeah, not Wes Walker, the other white guy. Oh my God, MVP Patriots
crazy
wide
catch.
receiver, Julian Edelman.
There
you go.
This podcast is Games with Names. We're like the opposite of that. we're like
Edelman. Yep. Thanks.
podcast with no names.
The only names we know are each other's. And that's it. That's all you guys are fucking getting.
PS2.
and names on our teams. That's it. Who's the quarterback for the Jaguars? Trevor Lawrence. There we go.
Yeah.
But
there was a picture of Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, that whole draft class, and it was like, what do you think of these guys? And I was like, Trevor Lawrence is the nicest Waffle House of all the Waffle Houses, because
they don't have as many fights at that Waffle House.
But you know, when he won the playoff game, he's like, I'm going to Waffle House. He went to Waffle House with his family, and I'm just like, that's
right. That's right. Yeah, I do remember that. Casey, I'm so glad I fit in about the name thing. Oh yeah, 100%. You guys don't remember names? You're at the right podcast. But then again, thank you guys so much for being here. We really appreciate everybody who was here. Casey, Crafty, Nick, Jinja. We had Daniel Barry here earlier as well. Thank you guys so much for being here. Go and follow us on X at NFL with Kyle and at Only Football Pod. I no longer have an X, but I will be, for the most part, running Only Football Pod with NFL with Kyle as well. Gotta change that. Subscribe, please subscribe here on YouTube. Follow us on Twitch. Follow us on X. We appreciate everybody who follows us and who tunes in. Again, it's going to get a little weird in terms of live streams for the foreseeable future, but we're going to do our best to work around that and get you guys in the know about all of that. But thank you guys again for all you guys being here. We appreciate it. Make sure to hit a like before you get out of here. And Kyle, always a good time, brother.
Always a good time.